All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part again of Women Who Win. I am Dr. Frida Doxey, your head coach for all life situations and circumstances. Listen, tonight is so exciting for me because I get to interview a young lady, and yes, I said young lady, that I met in 2016. We was on the same stage platform with Dr. Shana Wise here in the Jacksonville area. Many people may know who she is. And I was so fascinated and encouraged about Mary's, our guest, Mary, as she was talking about relationship. And I'm going to say the 3-letter word because that's what it really is. Okay, everybody. It's about love and sex and marriage. And that's what we're going to hit this when you see the comment section. It's going to be love, sex, intimacy, and marriage with Mary Whitman Ortiz. So let's welcome. Good to have you with me, Mary. Thank you for being a part tonight.
To join you and everyone who is watching, and I absolutely believe God has a word for them tonight.
Yes, he does. Listen, everyone, let me give you a brief background about Mary. It's going to be brief because I want a lot of this time to be so that she can talk about something that is so pertinent in relationships. So Mary is a Christian sex educator, relationship coach, and author, and a speaker, as I mentioned before. And she helped women, and I'm going to say men because men are couples, single and married, globally. And she's regularly featured on TV as a relationship expert. So you are in for an incredible treat. And I know there's going to be lots of questions. So you're going to see Mary's information where you can reach out to her and she'll tell you how to do just that. Listen, everybody, let's get right to it. Mary has helped so many people, thousands of individuals and couples in her lifetime as a relationship coach and an intimacy advocate. So I want her to jump right in and just tell us about all the wonderful and crazy things that she has been doing. God has blessed her so much. So listen up. Go ahead and tell us, Mary, about all the great things that you've been doing.
Oh, I love starting with these praise reports. It makes me think of the passage in Revelation that says they overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. So testimony is what keeps us all motivated, stirs up our faith, and that's God's example. So I'm glad that we are leading with that. I have so many, and the one Holy Spirit's just bringing to mind right now. I have a friend and client in Australia. We've never met in person, but it feels like we're so close because we can meet virtually and connect that way. Well, been married over 20 years and had some sexual abuse in her past. So even though she and her husband are believers now, that was a deterrent. I mean, it was not gone, the wounds, the hurt. And they're both loving, giving people, but still, when it would come to intimacy, it would be like this wall would just go up. And she didn't want the wall, but it was there, and it just back and forth. And of course, it's an obstacle. And the husband didn't understand it all because she couldn't put it into words because there was so much hurt there. So we worked through some inner healing types of things, and certainly a lot of that is exposing whatever lie she believed about herself through that abuse. You know, you're not good enough, and you're not pretty, and you're not smart, and you're not worth time and attention. Just so many of those things that Holy Spirit was highlighting, and we began to pray through. And when that started to lift, then she was ready to learn some communication. Because there had been the resistance, she wasn't interested at all to learn how to talk about sex. But when that healing came, she was interested, and we went through a lot of exercises of what names, what labels do you give to sexual body parts and sexual activities? Because if you haven't decided that within yourself, and there's no way that you can say it out loud and get on, I say the same page as your spouse, but at least the same understanding, the same type of respect. So when a lot of those steps came together, they were able to then connect in intimacy like they hadn't in years. And her husband wanted to make sure that I got the word that it felt like Christmas at their house, because this was this wonderful package that they were getting to unwrap together. So that is a wonderful, praise God story of how that healing can make such a difference in the marriage.
And you are a sex educator, and people, I want to make sure they understand there's a difference in a sex therapist and a sex educator. Tell us, what's the difference in the two?
Yes, well, sex educator is giving so much information about basics of sex and understanding the implications of problems. I couple my sex education with coaching. So that's how I have been able to get correct information to people, find out what myths have they been believing, and give them the facts and the statistics so that they're like, oh, well, where did I get that idea? Because I had it all wrong. And then with the coaching, we find out, well, what do you want to do with this? What's your goal? And we certainly partner together to come up with that plan that they can walk through.
Now, you're a relationship coach, so that's anybody, right, who needs real help with relationship. And you're an intimacy advocate. So, talk a little bit about that intimacy advocate. What does that look like, and how is that helpful?
Sure. I work with people. I use I'm a hand talker. I've been sitting on my hands almost, but so we have a spectrum of where people might find themselves in their understanding of intimacy. And certainly abuse and trauma in sex is all too common. I've said 4 out of 6, 1 out of 3, the numbers just increase. For women, the numbers are higher, and there's many reasons for that, but men also suffer from sexual trauma and abuse. But getting on that spectrum there, at an extreme end, it might be sexual exploitation. And so part of my intimacy advocacy is working with survivors of trafficking and exploitation, because trust has not been there at all, and sex has been a performance activity, and it's been connected to their identity. So we've just really had to peel back some layers there. But you can go down that spectrum. The other end of it might be growing up even in a Christian household where there was so much shame around sex that nobody said anything, and they feel so awkward. And one of the cases where this plays out, I call it my yes and no situation. They've said no to sex before they got married because that was their belief as a Christian, which is wonderful to have that purity, to have that respect for God's design. But then when it came time to say yes, after they walked the aisle, exchanged their vows, their yes and amen married, they did not know how to access the yes. The shame was still really, really heavy. And then on top of that, they feel like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I participate in this thing that is supposed to be good? And so it like added another layer of shame, which just breaks my heart, because I'm thinking, this is God's gift to marriage. And we as his children should know his gifts better than anyone. And yet religion has distorted what sexual intimacy is.
Wow, that is something that is so incredible, because I hear it a lot as a therapist too, and that is, what the church has taught or really has not taught. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I can't tell you how many times clients would come in and they have such guilt and such shame about it. And I'm glad you're here to help us so that we can be free, anyone who's listening, right? So so how do you, walk that thin line when it comes to, what are you saying something bad about the church, Mary Whitman Ortiz? what are you doing here? So how do you add that balance? Because I know you work and you go and you have your sessions. You just had one. I want to talk about that last one. You had a workshop at churches. So how do you bring that balance so that pastor is not feeling like he or is missing, the mark?
Well, lots of grace. And if I use phrases like religion versus the church versus Christian understanding, sometimes that helps a little bit. And one thing else I'd love to mention is that pastors and leaders, before they got into that calling, they were just people. And they had their own filters, their own upbringing, their own cultural messages that they may not have explored. So I don't really like pointing fingers because that doesn't help anyone to get whole. And another way that I help pastors with this is that they are sometimes blindsided when a marriage explodes in front of them because the couples don't come forward until it's not too late, but until the problem is so severe. So getting pastors educated, I have a training for church and ministry leaders to help them bring sexual healing. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about that is if you are a leader and you have a relationship with a couple, you have a sphere of care and influence, and that couple comes to you, or a single person comes to you, they come to you because they know you and they trust you. So they want you to give them that support and that information. If you say, oh, I'm not qualified, oh, it must be that specialist who takes care of it, and you give them referral, which is wonderful because certainly there are wonderful experts out there, but they might not follow up on that referral. They got up their nerve just to come forward and speak to someone they trust, and then they have to like start all over again if they go to the referral. So I love being able to educate, as I said, train Christian leaders so that they can help to bring that type of sexual healing also.
This is so important, especially for men. And I am wondering, I'm sure some of the people who are listening, like, how do you work with men? How do they receive you? How do you break, I'm sure that cautiousness that some men, not all men, may have, even if they are husbands. Have you found over the years that you've been able to break that cautiousness and that maybe that timidity, not in a way of fear, but like, is this lady going to really help me? I'm a man.
Well, I say the words out loud. I create the atmosphere. I talk about sex. I say penis. I say vagina. I say masturbation. I say the words. And so if, number one, if I'm comfortable because of my training and my experience, then that helps to set the tone for peace. I'm direct. I can call things out. I don't let any disrespect happen with my couples. I ask them to restate things. If they want answers, then we have to find what the problem is. So that's a lot of couples. The hurt has gone on for so long that they now are in the cycle of blaming and just keeping the hurt alive. So we have to get to a point where, do you want to just stay and fester with your issue that you've now turned into your pet? Or do you want to get to the core and get the healing and get past this? And certainly if there are couples that have been in no sex or low sex marriages, there's usually some motivation there that they will listen and be ready to take action.
And what I'm finding a growing population, and I know you have touched on this many times over. So for those of you who are over 50, in your 60s, life biologically is changing. Not to even add if there's a medical condition. How do you work with a couple where there may be erectile dysfunction? How do you help that couple?
Yes, well, one of my sexual theology, I use the word gift, GIFT, as an acronym. and to help people to grasp how God sees sexual intimacy in marriage. So I'm getting to your answer here, but G stands for good, because God says that sex is good in marriage. I stands for intimate. It is very personal and revealing. It's not a performance. It is two people bearing their souls. F stands for fierce, because when that sexual bond is regular, it strengthens your marriage. You are fierce, united in the best possible way. And then I get to T, which stands for timeless. So the timeless goes both sides of the spectrum, in that sexual intimacy is that place where you can have this childlike wonder and exploration and fun. And then it goes to the other side, which is the adapting to maturity, knowing that surely there are physical issues happening with aging. And letting that dialogue be open, so men can describe what they're going through, women can describe. You don't know what your spouse is experiencing, and certainly even regards to menopause and women going through some type of vaginal dryness, and the husband might say, well, it doesn't feel dry to me, and she's like, well, my body is telling me things and it's going to be different from what you're experiencing. Just being able to get that kind of language out there helps so much.
All right, so listen, everybody. We are here interviewing Mary Whitman Ortiz, and I'm telling you, this is some information that you're going to want to share with everybody. I mean, everybody. And I'm going to shift Mary to talk about, I want you to talk, you have a 4-week program, you have an intensive with 30-day. So what's the difference in the two?
It really depends on what the person is ready, where they are in their process. Some people like to meet weekly, and let's just dive into this a little bit at a time. It's a lot to process, and that works better with their schedule right now. The intensive is designed for someone who says, you know, I've had enough. I want to dive in deep. I want to dive in now. I want to see results really quickly. So that is what the intensive is designed for.
And it's 30 days, your intensive is 30 days?
It is an intensive session that is 3 to 7 hours, depending if we're virtual or in person. And then there's follow-up for 30 days as you are putting these things into practice in your life.
So everyone, you can go to Mary's website and you can find that information where you can decide which one is best and do a consultation with her, and then she can help you decide what may be best for you, as well as for if it's an individual or if it's a couple. Mary, you talk about how you wrestle with sexual intimacy. What happened?
Wow. So the saying goes that God brings a message out of your mess. So that is my life for sure. I grew up and had a victim mentality, and part of that was just family of origin, not creating a safe space for thoughts and feelings and needs to be expressed. So I brought that into my marriage as a Christian, but just not knowing. And of course, we didn't have teachings on identity. This is back in the 80s. So there was just information that wasn't a part of the normal Christian experience. So I bring this woundedness to my marriage. And what I didn't know at the time is that my former husband had already been viewing pornography for probably 10 years by the time that we met. And he kept it a secret. And so I never felt safe, valued in our intimacy. I felt like I was an object, like he was just checking off things that he wanted to do, like it was just my body that was present and not my heart. But I couldn't put my finger on it, because I'm like, I'm a Christian, he's a Christian, then doesn't that make it be a Christian marriage? Where did all this come from? So I had no language to process it and to grow from that. And it deteriorated. We did see some counselors, but no one was really able to bring that wholeness. So it was after we divorced that I thought, I'm not ready to die. I mean, we couldn't make that work in the marriage, but I knew I still wanted to live. And so I just sought God in a deeper way and continued with healing and counseling myself. And when I began to get free and realize how loved I am, how special I am, how much that God sees me through his eyes, and I don't have to do anything. I'm completely accepted. When I got that kind of confidence about who I was and as an individual, it impacted everything. My business and relationships. I'd gone back to school, got my master's degree. I was able to do things I'd never been able to do before because I was seeing myself the way God saw me. And through that season in life, there were too many other women that I was running into whose story was so similar to mine, except that they had not come to that place of understanding and healing. And I realized that God had done such a work in me and that I had something I could share. So I continued more marriage courses and the Christian sex educator training because I realized that it was time. I didn't want another woman, another couple to go through their marriage, their life just falling apart around them. It's like not on my watch. Let's bring forth this healing. So that is how I got into this type of work.
You mentioned in your own testimony with the pornography, and the numbers keep going up. And listen, people, it's not just the men who's watching pornography, it's also ladies. And it's not just only the girls and it's the boys, it's adults, and it starts young. And one of the things that I submit is the internet has opened that door like never before. You know, I grew up and I saw my brother's pornography magazines under the bed. But today it's not the magazine, it's internet. And that is a situation that really hurts marriages. Mary, you mentioned it. How are you helping when you find a couple, whether it's the woman or the guy, right? And there's pornography. What are some steps that you can share with us that would help that marriage?
Right. Well, it is something for each individual to work on their own, in addition to the couple learning new skills together, whether you are the active partner or the betrayed partner, because it does feel like there's another person in the marriage. It does feel like adultery. It does feel like abuse when you find out that your spouse has this other life and these other things that they are seeking for pleasure. And so many of these things are rooted in that deep need. I mean, God made us to belong. And in that sense of needing to give love, receive love, all of that is beautiful. It's a part of our design. But when we have that void and don't take care of it in a healthy way, and we have substitutes, which could be anything that we abuse. It might be a substance or it might be pornography. If that's what's going on, we have to find new ways to recognize the void and fill the void. And it's different for different people. Some people are not into self-care. They don't realize how exercise, hobbies, socialization in good ways will help them. I certainly encourage accountability, and it might be a group, it might be one-on-one. There are, thankfully now, many ministries out there that offer a lot of programs, and there's a lot of wonderful books out there as well.
I want you guys who, ladies and gentlemen who are listening, notice that Mary said it's not, and I believe the same thing. It's not just one way that'll resolve it. Because if you're looking at porn and been watching it for any length of time, it's not going to just take you not watching it. Because I have not seen where not doing it actually deals with the deep-seated situation that you have to work with, your thoughts, your feelings, your belief, what you've been taught, et cetera, and the emotional piece too. So understand that if you come to Mary, and she's made that very clear, she's going to help you and also advise probably that you see additional resources that would help you through it. One of the things that I've noticed in my line of work as a licensed mental health counselor and a coach myself, and here's the thing is what we told our single girls, and you tapped into when you said, say no. So we've said no, no sex, no sex before marriage. Well, how have we, and this is what I purport, and that is we have failed our single girls and our single guys. We have failed them as a church, as parents. We told them to say no, but we didn't. And I've been teaching my girls, when as early as possible, but not too early, right? Especially when the hormones start kicking in, when they reach puberty. Because now you're dealing with formation of breasts and the guys, formation of different growing areas and the genitals, and the change in the voice, and the fur around their chin and on their face, and muscles are growing everywhere. And so what I've taught young girls and even adult women is we must be so in contact with what our body is doing and saying when he says, "Hello, Frida." And so I teach that. How do you help our single ladies? How do you help parents too, so that we can help the single boys and girls?
Well, I like what you said, being aware of what's going on in your body. And you are the master, the manager of you, spirit, soul, and body. And knowing what things are triggers in a good way, or triggers in, to be aroused is part of God's design for our body. So there's nothing negative about that. But what do you do with it when it happens? What do you do with it in your body? What do you do with it in your thoughts? How are you redirecting what's appropriate? How do you speak to that other person if something needs to be said, if there's a boundary that needs to be put in place? Certainly, I hear all kinds of parent stories of no time on the phone after 10 o'clock at night because what good could really happen at that time when you're getting all cozy, comfortable in your bedroom, what have you. So that's important, to be aware of your surroundings. When are you most prone to give yourself to that? Certainly women have different times on their cycle when their body is going to be more activated, and they can be proactive with that so that they aren't caught off guard. And I even draw an analogy to if you were going to go on a diet, that you would get all of the junk food out of your pantry, out of your refrigerator, but you have to put good food in its place. So we need to know what are some healthy things to do when those hormones are trying to get into the driver's seat. And if you already have those good activities in place, then you will be able to deal with it a lot easier.
I like that analogy. I'm going to use that one. I'll give you credit the first time. That is very good. I'm gonna definitely use that analogy because it works so well. Listen, everybody, again, we're here talking with Mary Whitman Ortiz, limitless intimacy relationship coach and intimacy advocate. I still remember years ago when I first met her, I thought this needs to be heard, not knowing that God would give an opportunity for me to start this YouTube page and henceforth a podcast. And I knew that one person I wanted everybody to know about is Mary. So you have an opportunity to get to know Mary. Here's a segment that I do, Mary, and this is a challenging one, and it's called, what is the one challenge that you find women struggle with when it comes to women winning in life? As a relationship coach and intimacy advocate, what is that one challenge? I know it's going to be hard to pick one, but if you could pick one challenge that you found that we as women struggle with that gets in the way of us winning, what would that be?
They don't believe in themselves. They don't value who they are. They don't feel like they're good enough or smart enough or pretty enough or fill in the blank. And a lot of those lies that are dominating their thoughts are messages that they internalized when they're children. It's possible that there was no adult that ever said that to them, but the circumstances presented it itself where they weren't invited to express what's going on, and they felt minimized. And because it's been a part of their life for so long, it seems normal to them, but normal doesn't necessarily equal healthy. And here's the flip side of it. It's one thing to realize the lie that you believed, and it's another thing to see what harm did it cause? What consequences did I face? And certainly in my life, when I dealt with some of those same issues of I'm not good enough, I held back. Even like, think about in school, in the classroom situation, and the teacher asks a question and you think, I know the answer, but you don't raise your hand because you're anticipating, what if I'm not right? Are people watching? People pleasing, rejection, all of those things wrapped up together. So it doesn't go away when we become an adult, just because we check off another year on the calendar. These internal issues have to be addressed, and God is the one that can give you that full identity of how he sees you.
Wow, that is, I'm seeing that as well. My goodness. And what you are showing, and I believe my own life testimony is showing to other women, and that is, yes, we see, right, we have not valued ourselves. We have not found ourselves to be worthy. And with the help of the Word of God and God through Jesus Christ, we can become who he says that we are. A
Amen.
royal priesthood, a holy nation, and so forth and so on. Because people will see me and they may do the same with you, those who know us from, 20 so years ago. And they think, wow, who is this person? And I will give God the praise, because without him instructing me through a variety of teaching and reading books and going to therapy, this is the result. And still, it is not over, right? It is still not over. We're still winning. Absolutely. You have a couple books. Talk to me about those books. Let us know about those books.
Yes, it's a husband and wife, male, female series, if you wanted to do that with your spouse. And the books, the titles are very similar. Why can't I talk to him about sex? Or why can't I talk to her about sex? It's a discovery workbook. So there's a lot of questions to help you understand what were some of the influences from my culture growing up that affect how I see sex. It begins to have you identify some feelings that have come or not come into the way you express yourself. And then even towards the end of the book, I have a template for a letter in case there's information that you have now discovered about yourself you want to share with your spouse. And it may be difficult to find those words, and that's why with this template, you can sort of fill in the blank and then gradually share and create more open communication, closeness, and connection in the relationship.
And there's another on her website, everyone. If you go to her website, you can do what is it called? You tell the intimacy checklist. Tell us about it.
Rate your intimacy.
Yes, yes.
Rate your intimacy. So you will get feedback that has you sort of peg at a certain place, but there's also steps you can do immediately to begin to improve your intimacy.
Yeah, so you definitely want to go to her website. Tell us about the website and this particular checklist is what I'm calling intimacy checklist. But you're going to get some feedback. It's not just a checklist and then it's out there in space somewhere. Mary's going to get it and you'll get some feedback. Go ahead and tell us how we can reach out to you and contact you.
Yes, my website is marywhitmanortiz.com, and Whitman is WHITMANORTIZ. And on that website, I do have the Rate Your Intimacy quiz, and you can download that and get immediate results. I also have, excuse me, my store that includes the books I mentioned. I have some courses there. Of course, I do coaching. I have podcasts and blogs, links to YouTube, a lot of resources right there on the website.
So ladies and gentlemen, teenagers and young adults who are reviewing this video, listen, go to the website so you can get your hands on the information. And also I'm encouraged you to get a consultation with Mary for whatever it is, the relationship coaching or for couples. She's got a variety of programs that are just right for you. And the website is friendly. So you won't have to look all over the place trying to find, what you need to find. Is right there and easy to get a hold of. Last weekend, or was it 2 weekends ago, you did a workshop at a local church. Was about a couple weeks ago, I think it was.
Help me
I
think
know you
about
do so
what
many.
you're
I think it was at
saying.
Providence. Was it at Providence?
Well, I teach classes at New Life. Yes.
Tell us about those. And are they open to the public, these classes at New Life?
The public, they're on Wednesday night at 6:30. They'll be running through Memorial Day. And it's true intimacy in marriage. And we break down some of the myths about intimacy. One of the questions I pose is your sex life saved? Because if Christians get married and they, sort of like what happened with me, they just assume, well, I'm a Christian, so that must mean my sex life is Christian. But if it's selfish, if you are making demands, if you are not respectful, then you do not have a Christian sex life. Now, it doesn't have to stop there. It can be redeemed, it can be saved, it can be healed and whole, but it's kind of an eye-opener because people don't realize that there's more than one mindset towards your sex life.
So again, that's Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. That's Eastern time for those who may be watching a different time zone. And that is here at New Life Church in Jacksonville, Florida. Can they find that information on the website as well?
No, probably not, because it's just a local activity, but the course will be available on a do-it-yourself online program soon.
All right, y'all stay tuned for that. Keep following Mira so you can have up-to-date information on that. And listen, the courses and information that she is offering is not just here local, but you can do it yourself, or you can work with Mira as well. I strongly encourage you to work with her. I am a therapist. It is so much different. Yes, we can read the manual, we can answer the questions, but I'm telling you, it is so, the best is when you have someone who knows the information, can walk you through it. Make the investment. One of the things my husband and I made a decision when we was in 16 weeks of premarital counseling. Yes. And it's not for everybody. Everybody will not have to do 16 weeks, but we as premarital counselors, we advise at least 8 weeks or 8 to 10 sessions. My husband and I was in seminary, and I tell you, I was a strong-willed, still am, but more humble now. And so was he. And we laugh as we remember 16 weeks, 3 different therapists.
Oh, wow.
So I say one therapist, my professor at seminary, and a local pastor were the 3 people that we. And here's the thing is, because we made the investment and we still make investments. So when you reach out to Mary, tell yourself, you and your spouse, this is an investment that's going to last a lifetime. And I know and believe that it will extend the life of your marriage. So make the investment, make it happen. We invest in so many things. Make the investment in your relationship, utilizing Mary as a relationship coach. And I'm saying sex intimacy advocate. Like she said, we use those words. So once again, I want you to really reach out to Mary Whitman Ortiz, and go to her website. You'll find the information right there on the headline, Limitless Intimacy. Lasting words. What would be your 1-minute summary lasting words? I know you got many you could choose from, but what would be that statement? What would the words of encouragement you would give everyone listening today? Because this is a tough topic, right? And healing is going to take a while, whatever a while means. So what encouragement will you give us?
it's a little humorous because sometimes couples want to know what's okay in their sex life, kind of like how much can we do, and I unpack that in great detail, but I give a guideline. As long as it follows God's word and is mutually respectful and satisfying. That is my guidance for couples as they are choosing the activities in their sex life. And that opens up all kinds of dialogue of what is mutually, and then both people have to be invested. There's no silent partner in a healthy sex life. It needs to be respectful, because that is certainly our sex life is modeled by Jesus and the way he gave his life for the church. So that is respectful is certainly a part of it. And then satisfying. Pleasure is a part of the joy of sex. So that we have to find out what is pleasurable for each spouse. So that one statement involves a lot, but that's a great guideline for couples.
Thank you for adding that. I think that is so crucial, because I get that question too. And you are free, everybody, now. You have to replay and repeat, this, what Mary just said. This is going to help you so much. Again, I am so ecstatic, and I thank God that you had the time to be with me and with those who will be watching and listening to this conversation. A relationship coach and sex intimacy advocate. That's her. I call her that. Okay, but you go on the website. She's a relationship coach and intimacy advocate. Thanks again, Mary, so much for being with us. Blessings upon blessings to you. And listen, if so, I hear someone, I just hear in my mind ear that someone may be saying, well, I'm not a Christian. Should I see her? Absolutely. Absolutely. You should definitely, you and your spouse should definitely talk to Mary. So for Christians, non-Christians alike, come and have a conversation or consultation with Mary. Again, thank you so much for being a part of this. I greatly appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing how others have been able to come and get the help that they need from you.
That sounds great.